Happy Saturday, THO. Welcome to Salty Saturday. This is the Pro Finals edition. Excited to be here tonight. We only have one match, but it's a good one. I am Donde, and I'm joined by Markshire again. Markshire, how are you this evening?
Donde, I'm doing great. Excited to get into some pro finals action. Like you said, only have one match tonight, but it's a good one. We've got CmaccompH against RonMexico. Both of these players are 10-2, two of the if not the highest win rates in pro this season. This is going to be a crazy match.
Yeah, I think the 10 win mark is a plateau that not many players can achieve. I mean, not every season is even long enough
True.
to get 10 wins. So if you get 10 wins, you're doing something right. Hats off to both these players on their season so far. And as you can see, this is pro, so we know the bans already. But the classes that we'll be seeing this evening, no hunter, not allowed. Either player. So
Yeah.
Rogue, Warlock, Warrior for CmaccompH versus Demon Hunter, Mage, Rogue for RonMexico. So interesting lineups. Some post nerf, a little bit of variance here. No DH for CmaccompH, which is kind of been a play that a lot of players have been moving towards.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense. The Workglaze nerf really hit the class pretty hard, and even though it was pretty popular at the Masters Tour, I think most of us that have been playing on ladder have noticed it has dropped off quite a bit. Ron, of course, still sticking with that. With it going for that tempo demon hunter, but CMAC going for a little bit of a different strategy, not bringing the demon hunter and choosing to bring face hunter instead. Of course, we won't see that tonight as both hunters are banned, but definitely a bold pick in the finals from CMAC.
And while you were talking about that, it felt like the right time to transition to showing the decks that the players will be bringing on screen there.
Hmm.
As you mentioned, that Face Hunter is not going to be seen, but it was a pretty standard list as far as I can tell. It tops out at Scrap Shot and Dragon Bane in the 4, and that's really all you're looking to do for as Face Hunter anyway. So other than that, we'll be seeing the stealth version of Rogue, the non-secret version. Warrior is the it's essentially a control-y kind of variant of the enrage list, I suppose. It's
Yeah,
it's definitely
it's.
heavier
I,
than normal.
I would say it's kind of similar to a bomb warrior list, except CMAC isn't running bombs. He's just running because he's running Bloodsworns, but no Grom or
Right.
no Korkron to go along with it. Really, just going for a slower list. CMAC is a player that is known for playing Control decks and Control Warrior specifically. So even though Control Warrior isn't exactly in the meta right now, I'm not too surprised to see him after it. Sort of a comfort pick for him, I think, with this archetype.
Yeah, and Elysiana being in there is definitely an indicator of a
Hmm.
control strategy. So yes, I would expect that to be a game that probably go long when we see the Warrior. But CMAC knows how to navigate those games, and hopefully he knows how to navigate Quest Warlock as well, because that's on the docket too. And that is a deck that is really punishing if you don't know what you're doing. So we'll have to see if he is going to be able to get through Ron's lineup, which, as you mentioned, does include the Demon Hunter. Pretty standard tempo list there. A Highlander Hunter,
Mhm.
which has been all over the ladder. Highlander Mage, and then the Rogue is the secret version. So there's a slight difference in the Rogue
Yeah.
lineups, Rogue lists between the two players.
I think that's interesting. I think that the secret Galakron Rogue is a list that we see some of the pros prefer. Playing against it on ladder, you usually just see the pretty normal stealth list. That's what I've seen a lot more in THL too, but I think we saw it in the Masters Tour. A lot of these players, especially the ones that did well and ended up in the top 16, in the top 8, went with the secret package, and Ron is going with that here. Definitely can come in handy with the Hanar and then especially the Blackjack Stunner if you're able to get some secrets to stick. That can be a huge amount of tempo.
Absolutely. So these players are itching to go. We know they got the bands in. They're in the challenge screen, so I'm going to give them the go ahead, and we will jump into match number one tonight. CMAC will be on the bottom of your screen. RonMexico will be on the top, and they are going. So we'll see what they decide to queue with first.
Absolutely, yeah. Looking forward to getting into the first match.
And this Yeah, this is an exciting match. Obviously, not only because of the caliber of the two players, but what it means overall for the season. You know, this is the final, so every match is extremely important at this juncture. But you know, Taplas is up 4-0 right now. So if you're
Yeah.
RonMexico and the unknown, you need this. You don't want to fall behind essentially 2 games to none and have to sweep out the rest of the series. Not saying your team's not capable, but it's really not a situation that I'd envy.
Absolutely. Yeah, very, very pivotal match for sure. And we are into the first game now. We've got CMAC choosing to go with the Quest Warlock to start off, and RonMexico is on his secret Galakron Rogue.
And we see CMAC dumps the entire hand except for the Quest, of course, and Ron has 2 Backstabs and a Seal Fate. Not cards that really are going to get a whole lot of play in this matchup, not a whole lot of things to backstab right out of the gate. But Ron's hand is now about as heavy as it can possibly be, but he is bailed out by that Pharaoh Cat on the top.
Yeah, very nice pickup there. All this top end, cards like Tog, cards like Galakron, I think will come in handy this game. The Colossus of the Moon might not, however, not the best pickup that you want to see off the Pharaoh Cat on turn 1.
Yeah, quite frankly, one of the worst pickups. I would say that and the Generous Mummy are probably the two that you least like to see. You know, you'd much rather see something like a Cartoon Defender or a Restless Mummy, but that's not what you know, Ron ends up picking up. I will say, it's golden, which is kind of sweet.
Yeah, let's get that at least. Over on CMAC's side, shaping up to be a pretty solid hand. The Moarg and the Skies and the Nether Breath are, I think, all what you want to deal with some of these early aggressive boards that the Rogue can have. Although we do see that Ron doesn't really have much to do here and doesn't even have a target for Seal Fate aside from his own face. But I guess he's going to go for that anyways, really wanting to get that Invoke out.
I think that's reasonable considering he's got Galakron in hand right now and a second activator. So at that very least, he knows he's going to get 2 cards out of it if he doesn't pull up another, you know, in a pair of invokes between now and when he wants to play it. But I guess the question is, do you just do nothing but dagger up that turn, or at least give yourself a little bit of forward mobility in your deck? But I don't know. It's a tough call because like right now he would be able to go ahead and Seal Fate C-Mac's face, and you know how can you know?
Right, it's tough. I don't blame him for doing it because of how heavy his hand is. He just really needs to get something going, get some lackeys down. Picking up the Praise Galakron gets him another Invoke. Not much in the way of tempo, but this Titanic Lackey will, I guess, buff the Pharaoh Cat very slightly. It'll still easily die to another Breath or a Dark Skies, but it is at least something on the board.
And to go back a turn too, I think the decision to Sense Demons is really nice for CMAC there, because that's a good recognition of seeing the Seal Fate come out that turn and know, well, I'm pretty safe to go ahead and draw 2 demons, which are likely to heal me to full, and I'm safe to not get Seal Fated probably a second time in a row, based on the fact that RonMexico dumped his entire hand at the start of the game.
Yep, I completely agree. And then CMAC here, just going for the Coin Netherwing, even though it doesn't clear the board, it makes a lot of sense. It's a really high tempo play and also gets 2 cards out of his hand. CMAC really wants to tap, get closer to Plot Twist, get closer to completing that quest, but with a full hand, it's kind of hard to do that effectively. And I think that's just a nod to how important hand management is when you're playing Quest Warlock. You need to draw as much as possible to complete your quest as fast as possible, but you also usually don't want to risk overdrawing. So it's sort of a delicate balance that you have to play.
Absolutely. And we do see the Shield of Galakron come down as the 3rd Invoke, and this draw for CMAC will now put him on 7. And there's Plot Twist, as mentioned.
Whoa.
That's a pretty good draw right there.
Very nice. I would say that's the best draw in his deck. And now CMAC, looking at this, he does have a very nice trade into the Shield of Galakron. He could just tap and then Plot Twist here and get very close to completing his quest.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. That would be tap to get to 8, and then he would dump 9 cards, so he'd be at 17. But he's going to opt to go with the Artificer turn and actually push some damage instead. So he thinks that maybe, you know, the combo play is not really the ideal method of winning this game. He thinks that he can just kind of out-tempo Ron to the finish line here.
It's interesting. Rogue is notorious for not having good healing options, so I don't mind, pushing the 5 here. I guess this flick is pretty big for Ron, though, because that does take away the Nether Wing that was in CmacComp's hand, and if he chooses to plot twist now, that's one less draw that he'll get.
Correct, and I think he's going to tap here and probably twist. That Zephyrs that was drawn is of no consequence at this point, as there's still quite a few duplicates left in the deck.
And he's just going to pass. I guess wants to wait one more turn to get maximum value from the plot twist. That's an interesting play, because CmacComp went in for a very aggressive line last turn, and then choosing to tap and pass here is taking it very slow. I think this gives Ron a window to really take control of the board.
Yeah, that did not seem consistent with his previous turn's play, but, like I said, this is a deck where it's very hard to navigate, and I admittedly am not as familiar with some of the lines there, so it very well could be the right decision in the end here, but I think for the average viewer, myself included, it does seem a little bit counterintuitive to what he did the turn prior.
Yeah, and like you, Donde, I don't have a ton of experience on this particular deck. CmacComp has probably played more than both of us, and this does end up working out for him. I think he's able to get a full clear and the plot twist, and I believe he won't complete the quest yet. He's going to be at 18, but picking up, 19, so he will complete it next turn, and of course picking up the 4 heal from the Brood Mother, very relevant.
So yes, he'll go right into the next turn and be able to tap for free, well, tap for 2 for a free card, I should say. And let me just be clear here, I do have plenty of experience playing the deck, I just don't play it very well. So, not to say that I haven't tried, I just would probably need someone to guide me in a direction that is not terrible.
Definitely. This Wondrous Wand, very solid for Ron here. Shield of Galakron is, I think, one of the stronger minions you can pick up from Wand, because it is 5 mana. And the Hanar 2 means Ron can sort of get a secret chain going here. Chooses to take the Mirror Entity, but of course the Edwind is much stronger to go this turn. Looks like CmacComp does have the direct answer with Twisting Nether, though.
Yeah, that is unfortunate for Ron. I think he played the best turn possible there, because now he can invoke into the fully invoked Galakron next turn, and with only 16 cards left in the deck, probably looking for something high value a la Kronks, of course. That's probably his best hit. I think he's running those questings as well, so that would be another option for him. And as you said, Twisting Nether, the obvious decision here.
Definitely a lot of value left in the deck, and I think the Mirror Entity is a solid pick, because you do know Quest Warlock runs quite a few very big minions. And in fact, aside from maybe Questing Explorer or Moarg, you'll get at least something that's pretty sizable. So
I would say Abyssal Summoner is pretty bad, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, Abyssal would not be optimal. That's true.
CmacComp hoping that he can find a way to get the Malygos back into his deck, because right now it's just kind of sitting there at 9 and not as helpful in terms of combo. Did pick up free Rain of Fire, so that is a step closer towards the plot twist.
Oh, and the plot twist, yeah. Very key pickup. Now CmacComp can just skies and then plot twist, and if he doesn't pick up the Mally again, he might be able to get it as 0 mana a couple turns later. And I think also looking at this CmacComp is back to 30 health. Ron did get some chip damage in, but he's drawn the Brood Mother several times, and that and the Nether Breath means that he's back to 30, but he chooses to forgo the plot twist, again saving it like he did in one of the early game turns.
One thing I find interesting, though, is that if he had played the Nether Breath to face, he would have lethal this turn. Because he would just be able to Malygos, Rain of Fire for 6, and then Soulfire for 9.
It's interesting, and he knows that the secret isn't Counterspell. Because he checked for that. He coiled first, rightly playing around it. So yeah,
correct.
Good catch there, Donde. I didn't even see that line.
And Ice Barrier, of course, would not come into play if that was the secret, because it would not trigger from spells. So I think that is, I don't know if that's just he had other plans in mind, but for me, the opportunity to come out and potentially get the lethal there on the next turn seems like the setup that you want to go ahead and throw out that Nether Breath right there.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. As you
Soulfire.
alluded to earlier, the Abyssal Summoner getting a procced into the Mirror entity, but this is still a solid spot for RonMexico because CMAC has failed to find a way to answer the Colossus of the Moon.
And I think he now realizes the effect that he can have on this next turn with the Malygos, and now he's got a free Soulfire as well, so he even has a second option should he need the extra damage, which at this point we'll find out depending on what Ron gets for some cheap cards. He gets a overcosted Shadow Step, but he does get a Kronks.
So this will, let's see, guaranteed CMAC can go for double Rain of Fire plus Soulfire, which is, I believe, 21. So Kronks for 5 damage to the face and 5 heal would take Ron out of range of that combo. I wonder if Ron will correctly identify that and know that, of course, it's hard to tell if your opponent has lethal in hand or not, but I think playing against Quest Warlock, you have to play pretty defensively at this point in the game.
And he will do that. You're correct. He recognizes the need for health, and he's at 23 effective, but I think that's enough still with the Malygos, provided the Soulfire does not discard the other Soulfire. So that's 18 from Soulfire alone, and then 6 from Rain of Fire. So yes, it is dependent on... Well, not even, because he can just use the second Rain of Fire regardless. So it is lethal as long as the second Rain of Fire is the final card played. Oh, no, it's not anymore. Actually, it would be suicide.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. The double Rain of Fire isn't enough. It would also kill CMAC, but I mean, still, you just go for it with the Soulfire.
I think you might do that this turn and just say, you know what, I'm losing. If I don't do it, I'm going to take the chance that it's either a guaranteed win or a draw. And this would be, I think, the first draw in stream history. So to be honest, I'm kind of hype a little bit for this.
Well, we'll see what this Soulfire does.
It did not discard the Soulfire.
And it looks like the other Soulfire is procced, yes. Yeah,
I'll tell you what, part of me is disappointed. But that is a win for CMAC in Game 1 with the Quest Warlock.
And I mean, I'm not too familiar. I want to say that the Rogue is slightly favored in that matchup. But regardless, CMAC does end up getting the win here. Pretty key win, I think, and Ron is going to have to live to fight another day and try to pick up another win with his Rogue in one of these other matches.
Well, we'll see if he runs that Rogue back, but it's either going to be the Rogue for CMAC or his Warrior. And as we mentioned at the top, the Warrior is a heavier control variant, and the Rogue is the standard Gala stealth version, not the secret version that Ron is running.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how this Warrior performs when it inevitably gets played. Of course, a deck exactly like this hasn't been played in this meta that I've seen. Of course, there have been a lot of similar builds, but this specific one with Elysiana is not one that I've had the pleasure to see in action this meta yet.
Well, wait no longer, because we're seeing it now, as Ron runs the Rogue back, and it will be the Warrior.
Yep, throws back the Archivist Elysiana. Rightly so, going to look for some more early game cards, and Risky Skipper, very key card in this matchup that CMAC already has in hand, and the Armorsmith too. Wow.
Unlike last game, Ron has a bit of a better hand to start with, not as heavy, a lot of options here in the early game, and a much better Pharaoh Cat minion in the Grand Mummy.
Yep, very solid. Can choose to go for either the Mummy, or the Hanar, or the Coin Miscreant this turn, or maybe even the Praise Galakron. Really just a wealth of options for Ron to choose from. Much different from last game, as you said.
I think the downside of the Hanar is that there is no secret in hand to follow it up with. If there was a secret, I would be all about going ahead and tossing that down on 2, but I think as it stands, he makes the right call playing the Grand Mummy. But Shield Block will draw a card for CmacC, and he's just getting all the Armor Smiths. And pretty much every armor generator in his deck with Kargath as well.
Yeah, pretty insane. I think Ron there going for the Grand Mummy and not the Coin Miscreant is kind of a nod to the fact that he wants to save the coin to combo with Tog on turn 6, or even earlier, potentially on turn 5. It's if he gets a Lackey to stick on the board, which would not be unheard of against this Control Warrior deck, but really just looking to get the Tog Waggle online as soon as possible, and saving the coin accomplishes that.
CmacC taking it slow. His deck is a slower deck, so we're probably going to see a lot of that throughout this game. And Shadow Steps to draw for Ron. Nothing that he'll really want to use it on immediately. And I think now might be the time for, like, Lackey, like you said, Lackey into Evil Miscreant, just to have the possibility that you can go ahead and play the Heist Baron on 5, but he's not going to do that. He's going to Praise instead. Praise Evil Miscreant also works.
Praise into the Miscreant, yeah. I kind of like going for the Titanic. It would protect it because you're putting Taun on another minion and then give you at least the chance of being able to coin out the Tog next turn, but choosing to instead get more options in his hand with the Evil Miscreant. Ethereal Lackey and Wixie Lackey, not the worst pickups. He's probably mostly looking for Draconic Lackey in this matchup, but definitely not bad.
What now?
I mean, if you're CmacC right now, you feel pretty strong about the fact that you're 5 turns into this game. Well, 4 for your opponent, 5 now for you. And ultimately, they haven't even really done any actual damage to you, just armor, chips, you know, nothing of great significance. So that's kind of what Control Warrior obviously likes to do. Not a deck that has, like you said, been seen in this meta, at least not very frequently. But plays just like the Control Warrior of old, where, you know, you're going to try to outlast this game, use Elysiana to get you even more turns, and I think that CmacC is on his way at this point. Without Ron's going to need some pretty big turns, and he's going to draw through that deck a lot faster than
looks
CmacC
like he's
is.
having one now. Speaking of big turns, we don't see a direct answer yet in CmacC's hand, assuming that this this Kargath gets killed off, but the 2 Shadow Steps the prep even?
I mean, as long as the Kargath gets killed, then that thing will live. But other than that, Plague of Wrath is a direct counter to that big old 7/7 on board. However, that's not going to be a problem here. It's just getting bigger. Ron is trying to end this game as fast as possible.
Yeah, even using the coin, I like it. I like going all in. And now CmacC here, he runs 2 Brawls in his deck, but doesn't have one here. And with no armor in hand, or sorry, no armor, no Shield Slam to come with it, this is a tough situation.
I wonder.
He can, I suppose, go for Skipper double Armor Smith and then Plague of Wrath requesting next turn.
And that looks like probably the best he's going to be able to get. Unfortunately, the Grand Mummy hits that Lackey, keeping the Lackey alive.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit extra damage that he'll take this turn.
That's very handy for Ron, picking that up. And with the Flick pickup now, he can full clear the board and keep his questing alive. Of course, he doesn't know this Plague of Wrath is going to be able to come down, but he'll still be able to push 11 damage.
Yeah, finally making an actual headway into CmacC's life total. And
yeah.
the bad news here, as you said, is that, well, all the hard work that went into that questing adventure is all for naught.
Yeah. But still, CmacC is running a little bit lower on cards. This Archivist Elysiana is going to be stuck in hand for a very long time. However, you know, CmacC still does have some solid removal options in hand, but having used 1 Skipper combo already in the game, he might struggle to deal with some of these wider boards.
And the Witchy Lackey came down on the 4/4 flick, which is a great target normally, but it only evolved it into another 4/4, so he runs it back, plays the Witchy Lackey again and gets Geppetto, which is significantly better. It's still an 8 drop at 6/6, which is not ideal, but better than a 4/4.
Definitely. I'm wondering if there was ever consideration for Xeroc's Crown there instead, knowing its Control Warrior. It seems like Ron wants to instead take the wand and maybe try to get closer to a fully invoked Galakrond and win that way instead.
Yeah, I think he understands that if he's going to try to, outlast CMAC, that's not going to happen. This deck will eventually fold under the weight of the control of the warrior. However, you've got to just keep pushing that damage as fast as possible. CMAC does play this Restless Mummy, which will help clear off. He's going to go ahead and use it on Todd to make sure that can't get Shadow Stepped again.
Makes sense because, another wand or maybe a crown would be pretty difficult for CMAC to deal with. So I like prioritizing that over 6/6.
I do, but we have also seen both Shadow Steps at this point. In fact, we've seen 3 Shadow Steps, so the only way you're seeing more is if it comes off of a Spell Lackey. However, there is always the argument for that long shot possibility being the one thing that makes you lose. So, if you play around that, that's not always the worst decision. But now CMAC has to find a way to get rid of the board here, and I'm going to think it's probably just Deathwing.
Yeah, I think it has to be, Deathwing. It would avoid proccing the dirty tricks. Of course, CMAC might think this is ambush instead, and it would give Ron a 2/3 with poison. But yeah, I guess he wants to go for the brawl instead. But either of these minions, yeah,
well, Blade Storm
he'll
is
have
in
to
his
use
pocket.
Blade Storm.
Yeah. I was say I think the way you're thinking there is like, all right, I either high roll and leave the 1/1 up, or I just have to use 2 cards to clear the board, which is acceptable.
Kind of crazy though, seeing Rogue definitely the aggressor in this matchup against the Control Warrior, but the Control Warrior only with 5 cards in hand, and Ron with a full hand of I think 10 cards right now.
Nope, 9 for right now, but he's going to go ahead and drop down the most stats he can essentially assemble on board, and even adding on to that, he'll ambush as well. And if he keeps that second Dirty Secrets in hand, he'll be able to use that for a later Hanar turn if he still needs it. Kargath Prime is a big pickup though for CMAC. That's 10 free armor and a removal on a minion.
Is huge. That is exactly what CMAC needed here. I think going for Deathwing wouldn't have been very optimal, but CMAC, he is going to go for it. He's going to play the Skipper first to proc the ambush, and now this way he's going to be able to clear off the ambush as well with his weapon.
And this is now a situation where that Kargath can be cleared by the Feywing. However, it just does mean, unfortunately for Ron, that he has to use the Feywing. And you really don't want to be giving up anything as far as your minions are concerned, but that Kargath has to go down. It can't be allowed to continue to generate armor for CMAC.
It has to, and yeah, unfortunately, Ron, I don't even think playing Blackjack Stunner on it is an option, even though it sends it back to the hand. You can't give your opponent another opportunity to gain 10 more armor, so he probably is going to have to make that trade.
We're in the midst of the secret turn from RonMexico. He is going as hard as he possibly can. Picks up Never Surrender there, which is a obviously cheap secret spell, which can get him 1 more if he chooses.
Yeah, and I mean, aside from that, Ron could go for Evil Miscreant possibly, but I think it's much better to just try to go for all the secrets. Maybe take Counterspell here. A lot of secrets now that interact with spells. If a spell gets cast, I think Ron will counter it and then also draw 2 cards and also buff his minion's health. But no spells in hand for CMAC right now.
And just as a recap, Netherwind Portal, Counterspell are the mage secrets. Never Surrender and Noble Sacrifice of the Paladin secrets. So we are going to see if CmacComp's able to navigate around the Christmas tree, so to speak, that is adorning Valera's character portrait.
Yeah, it's been a while since the Secret Paladin days, but Christmas tree still making an appearance in this game. Gonna go for the Livewire Lance and pick up yet another lackey here. Titanic does help, but I'm not sure if... I guess CMAC will be able to clear off the Hanar. Exactly.
Picks up... Well, Sword and Board is an option, Commanding Shout. Yeah, it's going to be Sword and Board, because he now does not need to use the taunt to clear the 1/1 if he would like. He can use it to go ahead and...
Going for the Sword and Board. Oh man, that keeps the Hanar on board though.
But then he still has the minions. So yeah, either way, he had the option there to try and at least, you know, test to see if he could keep the minion alive. But he did it right. Made sure that he attacked after to ensure that it did not live.
So yeah, for some reason I thought that Never Surrender would proc with the counterspell, but I guess not. Counterspell does override all other secrets, so Hanar is going to be able to be successfully killed off.
Now, Markshire, I think I have to tell you a secret at this point. No pun intended. I never played Mysterious Challenger / Secret Paladin back in the day. To this very moment.
I can't believe it. Were you playing Hearthstone then?
I started just before TGT. And I was still free to play, by the way. So I never actually opened a Mysterious Challenger. I literally do not have one in my collection.
That's crazy. Well, you missed out on one of the most fun and interactive decks.
No, I didn't. I got smashed by that deck over and over. Shout out to Day 9.
Yeah. CMAC here does go for the Deathwing to clear off his opponent's board, but is still running pretty low on resources here. This Kobold Sticky Finger probably won't do much in this particular game, but he at least has Warmwalk Challenger plus Rampage as a combo.
And now he has Bloodsworn Mercenary on top of it, so there is that is an answer and a half right there.
That might have been what I think one of CMAC's best draws for sure, because yeah, now he can just go all out, Wormall, Rampage, plus the Bloodsworn. Of course, RonMexico is going to get a free 4-cost minion from this.
And 2 cards, and 2 health to his minion. So he's going to get every remaining secret is going to pop here.
Yeah.
And,
Ahmet. The Ahmet. Wow. That is huge for Ron. Just look at what's in his hand. In fact, his hand is almost all spells, but you know, a lot of 1 mana cards with only 1 or 2 health. So that is huge for Ron to be able to buff some of these smaller minions.
Well, he did pick up Ambush there, so if he'd rather play that instead of the Dirty Secrets, he can go ahead and do that to get rid of one of the 4/12s, and also give himself a lackey in the process here. Or I'm sorry, not a lackey, a 1/7 stunner in the process. But he has Seal Fate to go ahead and generate a lackey as well, if you would like.
The door hit you.
And looks like he is gonna go for the double stunner.
Yeah.
And these 1/7s, they only hit for 1, but they're gonna be hard to remove. Yeah, unless CMAC picks up another Brawl or maybe another Bladestorm.
Yeah, we see, you know, when we're looking at the decks at the top here, there is one more copy of Brawl on the deck. There is no more Plague of Wrath, however, so that is not an option.
Oh, wow, the Shield Slam doesn't kill anything because CMAC can armor up to 6, but all of the minions on board for Ron have at least 7 health. So his only options here to affect the board now are really Wormall Challenger, but that feels really bad too.
Yeah, the secret is an ambush too, so if he plays Wormall Challenger, that means Ron gets a 2/7 poisonous minion here.
He is going to go for the Wormall, and he can at least Shield Slam the poisonous minion, but
not,
this is
kill
tough,
it.
CMAC. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
It's a 2/7. Yeah, so he has no way to deal with it now.
Yeah, just wildly irritating board at this point for CMAC to deal with.
Man,
And that was a lot of investment just to get rid of 2 minions. And now he only has Lysiana and Sticky Finger in hand. Yeah, there's 10 cards in his deck, but does he get to the point where Ron runs out of cards now? And one thing that's interesting is that of all the cards that Ron has drawn, none of them have been Galakron. And that means that Galakron is basically going to Myra's the rest of Ron's deck.
Yeah, I think this game is going to end with at least one player in fatigue. And Ron, yeah, just his hand is just full of very low impact spells here. So even though he is ahead, even though CMAC doesn't have much of a board in hand, he isn't doing much to actually leverage his board presence because, you know, he just has cards like Prep and Backstab and Seal Fate when his opponent has no minions or no minions that are undamaged.
And yeah, this is Spell Lackey is pretty big here. Whirlwind not that impactful. Ramming Speed could be pretty good. That could take out the 2 minions there on the right. And then Battle Rage is probably not an ideal pickup at this point. So I would say Ramming Speed is probably the choice.
I think it has to be Ramming Speed just because CMAC is facing down a lot of damage. But I guess he's going to Battle Rage instead. It gets himself closer to Fatigue, but wonder what he can draw that helps him deal with this board. Blade Storm and Bloodsworn. I'm not really seeing much that lets CMAC contest here. He can at least stay alive for this turn, but as far as he knows, we know that Ron does have the Galakron in hand.
And Galakron equals 5 damage plus Kronks. Yeah, this is way more than is necessary.
Yeah. Wow, yep, CMAC concedes as soon as it comes down, knows that that's lethal, and Ron is going to even the series at 1-1.
So I will say, obviously, the Control Warrior not something that is going to really show up on HS Replay. I don't really know what the spreads are for this deck. Should we be expecting it to get a win here at some point, or is it really more of just a surprise factor?
It's tough. Looking at what Ron has left, he has the Highlander Mage and the Tempo Demon Hunter. I would bet the Control Warrior is gonna go pretty favorably into the Demon Hunter. The Highlander Mage, I'm not as sure. There is a lot of value packed into this Mage that Ron has, and I think the Warrior's gonna struggle against that quite a bit.
And that's the matchup we're gonna see here: is the Control Warrior versus that Highlander Mage. Ron with an interesting opening hand here. Now he knows obviously has the perfect information of it being a Control Warrior. He can afford to probably keep some of the heavier cards if he would like. You know, Malygos alongside Kalecgos, if he really, really wants to, is not the worst idea. But he's going to go ahead and toss Kalecgos back and gets a different dragon, so the Malygos will be active on 5, but he also keeps the Escape Mana Saber for that extra ramp. And Kalecgos just came right back anyway because it's a boomerang.
I like it. Ron, not going for the, very greedy, I'm just going to keep a 10 cost card in my hand, but keeping the Mana Saber and the Malygos are just pretty, solid mid-game minions that you'll be in a semi-comfortable position heading into turns 4 and 5 against the Warrior.
I mean, there have been cards in history when, or decks in history where a 10 cost card was the right keep, right? Anyone for Ultimate Infestation?
Ultimate Infestation, yeah. Famous game from Tom 6029's finals win. But, yeah.
Not a common decision that anyone would make
Definitely
as far
not.
as keeping a 10 cost card. But it is, it did pay off.
It did pay off. Ron here going for the AI and really has all the 10 cost cards, the Reno and the Kalecgos now, has a lot of value in his hand. Not much in the terms of early board presence, but I think that's fine. He's going to be able to play the Mana Saber next turn. and is only facing a 2-3 and then whatever comes out of this faceless for CMAC.
Face Maw.
That is a nice pickup. Definitely one of the better 2-drops overall in terms of value.
I feel kind of like that shouldn't be allowed because it's Face Maw and it's a faceless lackey, so it's really that shouldn't be in the pool,
Yeah.
right?
Should have taken out of the pool. Yeah.
Of course, we joke just because it does tend to seek your opponent's face the second it comes out of its dormant state. That is obviously not, anything more than the illogical fallacy, some confirmation bias there, knowing, that we see it so often that it's just like, oh, obviously it hit my opponent in the face. But that is just as high percentage chance as any other random effect in the game. And we're going to see a coin use of the Mally here.
Interesting. Thought we would see the Mana Saber instead, but Ron wanting to get the 2/8 down, not the best options against a control deck,
No.
but I suppose you can take the 0 mana Frostbolt here. Oh, he goes for the Nova instead. Interesting.
Yeah, I think the Frostbolt would have been the pick to me there, because I don't know how many times you're going to want to Frost Nova, Control Warrior's board, but
Yeah.
especially when you've already got the Rolling Fireball in hand too.
Yeah, it's
Reno.
interesting. It's interesting looking at this warrior list from CMAC because he is running 2 Bloodsworn Mercenaries, but isn't running, and he's running a single Warmaul, but isn't running any Bloodboil Brutes, isn't running anything like Rom or Porkron that is often used in conjunction with Mercenary for a burst combo to kill your opponent. So I feel like there still isn't that much CMAC can do in terms of making a big board, even though he does have the 2 Mercenaries.
And Felmaw goes face, as predicted. Evil Quartermaster, the pickup and play here for CMAC. Picks up a Titanic Lackey, not bad.
Yeah. Definitely solid. Buff this Felmaw up a little bit, and then just throw out the Armor Smith, because I think CMAC is really trying to just push his board presence as much as possible. He knows if he gets into the late game, RonMexico's value is just going to overwhelm him.
Not only that, it also shuts off Reno on 6 here, because if you want a Reno, you're going to give him 10 armor.
Yeah. But no Reno. Well, we see the amazing Reno in hand, but not the 6 mana Reno.
Yeah, not the one that you can play at this juncture.
For Ron here, and he does have a lot of options here, but a lot of really high cost cards as well. If I'm Ron here, I might be thinking about how I can deal with this 5/6. If not, he could just play down the Mana Saber and then Hero Power, maybe take a little bit of a more passive play, but leaving that 5/6 up doesn't feel great when you're only at 18 health, with the only healing in deck, I think, being the amazing Reno and then Ice Barrier, possibly.
And Frost Nova with the Doomsayer that was already hand. And I think we start to see the reason there that Ron might have taken the Malagos Nova to begin with, because with the Doomsayer in hand, it is a pretty clear combo. However, Warmaul Challenger is a perfect counter. Will keep CMAC's entire board alive and give him another minion.
Yep. Very nice counter from CMAC here. Of course, with the Frost Nova, even though the Doomsayer did not go off, this will buy RonMexico another turn, so now he can choose to just Tiamat and pretty nicely deal with this Felmaw.
Winds of the South, come to my aid!
Felmaw Taunt is no more thanks to Tiamat, but it does not have Wind Fury. It's not as potent as the Tiamat you would like to play, but it's a reasonable decision here. CMAC just plays down the weapon, picks up a Lackey that is an Ethereal Lackey, and a lot of good choices. Shield Block, Brawl, Whirlwind. I think it's Shield Block or Brawl here, but in this case, you're the one in control. You already have a Brawl in hand, now you have a second one.
Yeah, CMAC, at this stage of the game, I don't know if he wants to be loading up on removal options, so I like going
most
for the
likely
Shield
not.
Block, maybe. Yeah, maybe dig a little bit deeper into his deck, get something else here. But yeah, you know, these cards, like, he has good combos with Skipper, he has the Brawl, he has the Deathwing, but RonMexico until now hasn't really pressured by making a big board.
And the pickup of Kargath there, not too impactful right now. And I can say, obviously, from being on the warrior side of things here, anytime there are freeze effects, especially repetitive freeze effects, such as the actual water elementals, it can get very frustrating very quickly. So I'm sure that CMAC is trying to figure out the best way to go ahead and get rid of those 3/6s while still allowing him to continue to develop. But I don't know if there's really much to be done here.
Definitely. I was wondering if he was thinking of going for a Brawl here to hopefully kill off both of those water elementals. But he's just going to choose to pass instead. CMAC, I think at this point, might be thinking how he can space out his removal, these 2 Brawls, the Deathwing, and the 2 Skippers that he has, and then maybe find a way to get a minion to stick on the board and deal the damage that he needs to close out the game, because Ron is only at 8 health right now.
And that Pyroblast, as tempting as it is probably not what you're wanting to take here. Okay, I lied. It is exactly
Ron
what he's wanting to
disagrees.
take. He disagreed very much so. I was thinking he might go with like the Ray of Frost, but you know, he's got Cartoon Defender in hand. Feels like he can survive that, plus the Ice Barrier will keep him going at least until this next turn, where if he wants to, he can go ahead and Amazing Reno.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, Ron knows CMAC's deck list. He knows CMAC doesn't run Grom, doesn't run Korkron, so there isn't, like, really, CMAC is going to have to stick a minion on the board to deal that last bit of damage to Ron. But with the Cartoot and the Barrier, I mean, even without the Barrier might not get procced very soon, but the Cartoot at least will give him a little bit more heal. And of course, he has Alex in hand too.
It's very possible that we just witnessed the turning point of this match. You know, the stabilization point for Ron. You know, it's 8 health, but he's behind a taunt. He's got some freeze.
Yep.
He's got healing, like you said, effective healing, and I think that might, like you said, it might just be enough to get him through the remaining piece of the portion of the game that CMAC will no longer really be able to effectively pressure.
It definitely seems that way. CMAC, of course, doing very well in terms of life total. He's gone up to almost 60 total health, but that's not really going to do that much in terms of actually closing out the game, because we can see how many options Ron has in hand. Still has the Reno, the Caligos, the Alex, still has a Dragon Queen Alexstrasza left in his deck. Really just so many options for Ron to choose from now.
Yeah, now this, as you mentioned, the question becomes, where does Ron want to go from here? I don't think there's any situation where he's concerned about dying this turn, so he can take a little bit more, I don't want to say like a passive approach, but he doesn't have to clear the board, he doesn't have to use Reno this turn if he doesn't want to. Something like Bone Wraith would be sufficient, Escape Mana Saber, yeah, in combination there is perfectly fine.
I like this. I guess the only thing that doesn't feel great about this, is you are leaving the Armor Smith up on board, and I think CMAC at this point is thinking that, okay, you know, I'm probably not going to kill my opponent directly, but I have 60 total health, I have a lot of removal options in my hand and in my deck. Maybe I can just completely exhaust my opponent of all resources, and then of course when it gets to fatigue, CMAC does have Archivist Elysiana in his deck. And
I think the thought process here too in leaving the Armor Smith up is, he's at 57. What's 58? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
If I'm beating him from that point, I'm gonna beat him if he gains a couple more armor. So there's no urgent rush to go ahead and clear it. And using the freeze effect on CMAC's face obviously stops him from generating anything else lackey-wise that could potentially swing this game. So I think it's the right move to keep just being patient if you're Ron. You've got the tools, you've got the time at this point, which is not something that many decks could say against a Control Warrior.
Yeah, no, definitely fair. Ron here, I think he's going to, at some point, look to use this Alexstrasza offensively, but given his opponent still has, you know, 20-odd So armor, he can wait a little bit before getting that final blow in and dealing 15.
Plague of Wrath now. It will allow the removal of that annoying water elemental for CMAC, which is definitely going to be helpful.
What now?
But is there a way that he can clear more of this board? I mean, Ron has obviously been trying to like drip out the threats, and yeah, he's been trying to tease this brawl out of hand that he was almost positive was there, yet not overcommit. And unfortunately, probably his best minion lived for CMAC.
Very good. I think CMAC might be a little bit happier to see that instead of the water elemental, because he'll at least now be able to attack with the live wire lance. But yeah, the Mana Saber, definitely one of the stronger minions here, and Ron for now will effectively have 11 mana each turn if he so chooses.
The only real reason I say that the Mana Saber is better is just because it was undamaged and thus not killable by a Plague of Wrath if he had wanted to use it. So now we see we go with the Tortolan Pilgrim pickup of the Power Creation into the Shivering Shivaras, and that was like a tongue twister right there. And now we're looking at a board that's high power but not a whole lot of health, and with Risky Skipper in hand, I think that this will probably end up being a full clear between the Live Wire Lance and Battle Rage. I would have to imagine he picks up enough to go ahead and clear this board.
Yeah, again, not exactly guaranteed depending on what he picks up from the Battle Rage, but I think pretty likely. And of course, CMAC is not too worried about drawing too much and going into fatigue because he does have Elysiana in his deck. But yeah, no cheap minion here, so he won't be able to clear off both of these 6/2s unless he goes for the Blade Storm.
And he's going to do just that. He manages to put everything to the same health.
Yeah. I think, yeah, very, very well navigated turn from CMAC here, managing to clear off a pretty scary board without using Brawl or Plague of Wrath or Deathwing.
And now Ron is in a situation where is this just I was gonna say, is this just a Calico's turn, knowing you've got Pyroblast in hand and you can just start hammering. Yeah, just start hammering away at that armor.
Do it. Just hit your opponent for 10. He's getting close. CMAC is
Kargath
now down
off the top.
No, I was gonna say CMAC is down to single-digit armor, but yeah, that Kargath is gonna take him right back up.
Well, Deathwing is a good spot here because it's gonna live at a 12-8 and get rid of the Calicos.
Very nice. Ron, most of his big threats are in hand now. He, I think, still has Dragon Queen Alexstrasza and Power of Creation left in his deck.
Definitely.
Here, we might just see him go for Reno, because he doesn't have a great way to do his 12-8 otherwise.
Yeah, there's not too many situations where CMAC's going to have a huge wide board. Just taking out one towering minion is fine. I will note that there is also Solarian Prime in Ron's deck for extra shenanigans.
Yep, almost forgot that, but yeah, definitely a lot of threats still left for Ron. And CMAC here finally going to proc that Ice Barrier, but again, this 8 armor not too relevant at this stage because it's going to be very hard for CMAC to get a minion to stick, I think, until this game goes to fatigue.
Both players now at double-digit armor as well, which, speaking of fatigue, there's going to be caster fatigue after this match because this one's a long game. I mean, I'm looking at the stream on delay, and they're 7 turns into this match, and that was 10 minutes ago, and we are still probably a long way away from the completion of this, barring any crazy random spells.
Yep. Yeah, almost 9 o'clock here, so maybe it's a good thing that we only have one match tonight, because I think we will go to probably at least another half hour, maybe.
Yeah, heaven forbid this warrior
two
loses.
Normal matches. Yeah. A nice, clean armor up pass from CMAC. The standard Control Warrior affair. Yeah.
Yeah, Blessing of Might not getting any work done for Ron. It's got no targets, but I guess that means he can't hit a bad target.
And I wonder here if Ron is thinking he might need to use Alexstrasza defensively in this game.
My.
I wouldn't think so. But he's choosing to just play a 2/2 instead, playing down the Alex.
A 2/2 that gave him Plague of Death, which is, first of all, in no way a card that CMAC can comfortably play around, And
True.
really probably just kind of overkill in this situation, as we were talking about. I don't know how many really large boards CMAC is going to get at this point that Ron will need something like that to deal with it. But hey, he's got the option now.
Kargath coming down, I think Ron might have been playing this 2-2 trying to bait it out, and then maybe his Alex will be harder to deal with, but CMAC here going up at 57 health now, and is going to give the Kargath taunt and +2 health, making it even harder to kill.
And I tell you what, we might actually, this might be the turn for that.
Oh no! The Reborn onto the Kargath.
Won't matter if it's silenced. Plague of Death will still.
Oh, that's true.
That is again a situation where CMAC is very excited to be in the position he's in. Yet he's going to be very disappointed that Ron pulled the random Plague card. That is the direct counter to that play.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess is it just Plague here? Zephyrus would give Natalie Celine, but that isn't good enough if it's going to leave your opponent with a 10-1.
No, I don't believe so.
He might just has to do this and kill off his own 4.
Oh, actually going to go with the Karj instead.
Okay.
And he could Frostbolt it rather. Yeah, there's no need to Frost Nova when you only have one target. Man. Now here's a thought. Do you play Zephyrus and hope you get like mind control off of it and try to take it next turn?
Yeah, Zephyrus could have given mind control.
Oh, the Bloodsword Mercenary! This is craziness.
And that's a copy. The copy also has Reborn, so I mean, what is Ron?
It's another Bloodsword Mercenary.
What?
I mean, as much as Ron would really like a Kargath of his own, I feel like he's probably just going to bump the 3/3, take his Kargath, get 10 health, effectively, and then just get rid of the rest of them.
Man, yeah. Arcane Missile's not going to do much to this board. He does get 1 chip damage in on CMAC's face, but yeah, I think this is just going to have to be Plague of Death here.
And Ron, very, very happy he picked up the game-saving card off of the transfer student, and now CMAC, interestingly enough, 1 card left in deck, and that 1 card is Archivist Elysiana, which is exactly where you'd want her to be most of the time.
We saw last game that Elysiana was stuck in hand for a while, and CMAC ended up losing, but having it as the last card in the deck, like you said, is exactly what you want, and he'll be able to pick that up next turn and play it immediately. Which is why I think this is a good call by Ron to play Alex Straza, get that 8/8 on board. Well, I guess, of course, CMAC can still play Elysiana and just Shield Slam, but
yeah, I think that's probably what's going to be.
Yeah, he has the right idea trying to finish her, I think.
And let's see, he's going to pick Violet Warden on the first one. Probably Warbringer. There's Warbringer on the second one. Octosari is not a good decision. That will just deck him very quickly.
Yeah, hopefully CMAC doesn't misclick on that there. Might just want to go for the Proud Defender.
I think he took the minion on the right. Oh, Zephyrus! Oh my, that's not even a question.
Wow. That is crazy.
Now, we are still multiple turns off of Zephyrus being active at this point. However, man, the Reno is really just coming up short for Ron. That's multiple turns in a row now where it's tried to target his own minions, and those minions have not existed.
Yeah, just really nothing for Ron here. But if he wants to get not 1 but 10 random spells in his turn, could just throw down the box here.
Make us rich?
And I should point out that he did go Tinkmaster over Spark. I can see it on my deck tracker here, and Fulper a Scoundrel was the other pick. So a lot of cards that are not only are good individually, but they can generate other things too. So continuing to give him options, and Ron's only got 4 cards left in deck.
What would
It's
make
a lot
us
of
rich?
value. for CMAC, which is exactly what he needs here. He is at a very healthy life total. So he's really just looking to make sure that he gets the cards to extend the game. And if that happens, he will just win in fatigue.
Thought I had more time.
Amazing that Ron had CmacC down to single-digit armor at one point after he was at 30 armor, and now he's back over 30 armor again. It's crazy how effective this deck is at just being defensive. And we are going to see Elysiana gets cleared off. A little bit more investment than Ron probably would have liked, but Ron still does have Puzzle Box in hand too, so anything can happen in this game.
The Anubisath, pretty nice. It will buff only one minion in hand if RonMexico dies too, but I think it just being a 9/6 is.
Oh, that's more than enough
enough
in most cases, yeah. Now Ron picks up Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, and again, these dragons are no longer free, but he will be able to play one of his choice. Oh, he picked up
Onyxia. Chrono Breaker, not too impactful, but Onyxia is nice. I don't think he wants to play it this turn, though, knowing that there is still a brawl.
I thought it was Deathwing at a quick glance, and I didn't know if I should be excited about that or not, because obviously that gets rid of his whole hand, and then you essentially lose the game at that point. But it is not. Onyxia is much, much better, I think, for Ron in the situation he's in right now.
And CmacC now could just trade this 9/6 into the 8/8 and get a buff on his minions. This Violet Warden could be pretty impactful. He's going to choose to go face instead.
Yeah, I think pressure's fine. I mean, he's got multiple removal tools. Oh, mutate!
Oh my god. Okay. That isn't much better. I don't think. Yeah, no demons in hand, at least right now, for RonMexico to summon.
And Ron has, again, he has another option. He picked up Reno, the minion version. Unlikely that it clears the board, however. It could at least clear off 2 of the minions here.
Yeah, he does go for the Reno.
And it doesn't.
See, that's why, yeah, Ron could have traded first. But going for this Reno now it's super awkward to deal with these 2 health minions, unless he wants to Zephyrus for Cleave. But it feels kind of bad to use your Zephyrus just for that at this point in the game.
Thought I had more time.
Ron gonna go for the Frost Nova here.
Interesting, and then Tankmaster the draw for CmacC. And it should be noted he's drawn one of 3 of the different cards right now. So if he picks up Zephyrus, it's almost active.
Definitely would be huge for CmacC if in the next couple turns he had an active Zeph. Right now, Witchy Lackey onto the 9/2. I don't hate it. I wonder with that Witchy Lackey, has CmacC committed to not going for the brawl? But no, I guess he has.
Yeah, I think he wanted to give the extra opportunity to win, even if 1/1 is still better than his opponent having a minion, and that's exactly what he gets.
No 1/1 wins! Wow.
And Tankmaster can't make it worse, it can only make it better.
Yeah. It can, but I think CmacC is going to want to save that for removal. He knows Ron has a lot of big minions left.
And Solarian Prime. It's either Solarian or Onyxia. Do you just Onyxia here? I mean, you know what cards are in CmacC's hand outside of the random cards from Elysiana. Obviously, open list, you know those 4 cards on the left are there. So Bladestorm is there, Plague of Wrath is there, and then the other 2 cards are essentially useless at this point because you don't want to draw off your CmacC.
He is going to go for the Onyxia, but yeah, I mean, this is just going to be an easy Bladestorm into Plague of Wrath clear. I think Ron getting punished slightly for playing the Twilight Drake along the Onyxia, because it's likely CmacC would have had to go for the Plague of Wrath anyways.
Right.
When he will put the Battle Rage in, trying to get closer to that Zephyrus. It's not quite active yet. He hasn't drawn either copy of Volpera Scoundrel, but either copy off the top next turn, and Zeph will be active. Wow.
It's
This game is
probably the
really coming down
gyrocopter.
to the
Yeah.
wire. Yeah.
Now if Ron can...
That's not Volp.
No.
Mmm.
Tank Master will make the gyroscope a 5-5.
5-5. Still better. That's still a positive outcome for CmaccompH.
Twin Slice, the value.
Oh man.
But now Ron has become... He is now on the clock because anytime he draws, he's going to take more and more damage. But Solarian Prime or Puzzle Box, they have a tendency to make you draw.
They do. I think I like going with Solarium. It gets a 7/7 on board. But yeah, like you said, Puzzle Box draws cards a lot of the time, and that is just a death sentence for Ron at this point in the game.
And reduce those cards in your deck by 2.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
very helpful. But Bandersmosh actually was played off of the Apexis Blast, thankfully. No spell or no minions in deck, obviously no cards in deck.
Yeah.
Now if this board sticks, Ron could use like a Savage Roar or a Bloodlust off of Zephyrus.
This is what right now a 50-50 to draw Volpera Scoundrel and have Zeph
And
active.
it was not.
Oh.
So let's do some quick math, which we know is my strong suit. So there's 21 damage on board, 25 if you include the Wind Fury, and then add an additional 3 per minion. So effectively another 40.
No!
Oh,
Markshire.
it gave him
But he gets the
Pyroblast.
Pyroblast. What? Oh man, if you're Ron here,
I think you still Zephyrus.
so he doesn't know CmaccompH has 2 Zephyruses in his deck. Not knowing that, maybe assuming your opponent doesn't have any sort of removal, I can see Pyroblasting here. But of course, we know CmaccompH does have the Zephyrus, and Ron will probably want to Zeph now. I'm not even sure if Zeph would give Savage Roar, even though it would push a lot of damage.
And I think maybe that's why Ron's hesitating.
Your wishes,
We're gonna find out.
He's going for it.
It doesn't. It gives Wind Fury,
Wind Fury?
which
Wait, it didn't even give Tyrion there?
I guess not.
Okay, I don't understand that at all, but
That's
Ron
that golden
is gonna be
Zeph
able to
logic
push a
for
lot
you.
of damage. Yeah. He's gonna put his opponent down to 12.
And still Zephyrus is not active.
Oh, that is such a brutal draw for CmaccompH. That's just game, right?
Yeah, there's nothing here for CmaccompH to bail himself out. And I think it would be funny if Zephyrus, at the point where we were at there, where there was no clear answer to what you want, if he just lets you type in a card and just say, yeah, you just pick at this point, I got nothing.
Yeah.
Dimensional, I guess you still wait and see there, because what if that card was like Overflow, for example? Or, I'm sorry, what if the spell was Overflow?
Nether. Yeah, multiple options there. Yeah, CmaccompH still had lines to win that game depending on the random spell, but man, what a heartbreaker for CmaccompH playing a... I mean, you might have been timing this, Donde. I think at least a 30-minute game. 30, 40 minutes?
Yeah,
I
mean, I wasn't timing it specifically,
okay.
but I would be shocked if it was any less. And CmaccompH gives the people what they want. He gives us a 3rd game in a row with Warrior, but it's against Demon Hunter.
Yeah. This could be the game where the Warrior finally picks up a win, I think. CmaccompH, it feels like he does have his deck geared towards beating exactly this. Ron really relies on getting that early game aggression, getting on the board, and CmaccompH just has so many cheap removal options in his arsenal with this list.
And the Gallo Rogue doesn't do too badly against Demon Hunter as well, so CmaccompH still probably feels alright with the 2 decks that are remaining, but Demon Hunter does Demon Hunter things where it just goes out of control sometimes.
Yeah.
And we do see Ron has a pretty interesting opening hand. He's got the Satyr Overseer. Now he's got the Bone Chewer as well to protect stuff. That is a good pickup.
Yeah, no Og Merchant yet, but I really like just getting the Bone Chewer out, get that 2/3 on board. It's going to be tough for CmaccompH to deal with, but of course, in a couple turns, he does have Risky Skipper with Armor Smith, and is probably going to play Livewire Lance before that. So CMac is definitely going to bide his time here, and I think build up to getting a swing turn with Skipper.
And Sticky Fingers there would love to grab a Warglaves.
Yeah, and we see in Warglaves, we talked about this a little bit before the match, Donde. Warglaves is a card that, because of the impact of its nerf, some players have been cutting it from Tempo Demon Hunter lists, but RonMexico has not. He's chosen to go for Mana Sabers to try to bridge that gap between the turn 4 and turn 6. Still has 2 Warglaves in hand, so we could very well see that get stolen by Sticky Finger this game.
Yeah, I think Mana Sabers is definitely a popular inclusion now, and you know, when the mana cost increases, just bring it down, bring it back down yourself.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Why not? And CMac here hitting in with a live wire. I think might just choose to use Kobold Lackey to take out this 4/1 and wait one more turn before trying to go for a Skipper. Yeah.
Well, now that he's got the Draconic Lackey in hand, he has definitely 2 minions he can play next turn with Armor Smith and the Lackey. So I think that's totally fine. And yeah, the Overseer comes down, and that's just going to play right into CMac's desires.
Yep. Pretty straightforward turn from Ron. I definitely agree with the Overseer, but this is going to be a pretty nice clear.
Never mind. He might just use the Restless Mummy.
Wow. Yeah, I don't hate it. Why not? Why not get more greedy with the Skipper? Maybe he can fiddle Battle Rage in with it in a later turn now, but Restless Mummy clears up, takes away 6 power.
Well, not only that, he's got Bloodsworn Mercenary, so you can have the classic turn 6 of Risky Skipper, Armor Smith, Bloodsworn Mercenary, effectively does the same thing, and still lets you clear most of the damage on board right now. But he's mousing that Risky Skipper. There he goes.
Interesting.
Made to.
Still gonna go with this. Maybe getting some minions on board early, forcing RonMexico to play from behind, and maybe try to force a Warglaves out in another turn.
And Ron does pick up the Og Merchant now. It's a little later than he would like it, but after seeing the Risky Skipper out there, he can probably feel pretty comfortable. Let's say he might want to just use the Og Merchant on the 2/2, but he would rather just freeze CMac's face, knowing that there's little way that he can handle the board. Yet we see the Restless Mummy is exactly what the Doctor ordered for CMac, and he's going to clear off most of this board, except for this one Blazing Battle Mage that has just lived for the entire game.
Yep, played on turn 1, has stuck around now. Oh no, and CMac is gonna just use Shield Slam to fully clear off the board. Yeah, wow.
That's a lot of respect for that 2/1.
That is a lot of respect for it, and this Warglaves coming off the top for Ron, playing it and hitting face, definitely the right play, but this Sticky Finger is just absolutely
devastating.
brutal.
Job done.
Ron is not happy with that, and he is definitely in the dumps as far as card advantage goes, because he's got Altruist and not enough cards to really play it worthwhile. I would imagine he's really looking to rip a skull off the top at some point here in the next turn or two.
I think he has to. I think, Skull next turn into Altruist is probably the only way I can reasonably see Ron coming back in this game. But right now, he can barely build up a board just with Battle Fiend and possibly Og Merchant to go along with it. And I think of note is Ron is only running a single Guardian Og Merchant in his list. Og Merchant, of course, not a card that has always seen play in Tempo Demon Hunter, but once Bone Chewer Brawler and Amani started finding their way into lists, as they have done in, I would say, the past month or so, running it as a 2-of has been pretty consistent, so I'm a little bit surprised to see him only put 1 in here. Of course, it not doing much work in this particular game.
Ron deciding what he wants to send out to be slaughtered, essentially. I mean, I guess you could Og Merchant the Battle Fiend, but really low power, and probably better in conjunction with the Altruist, especially if you can pick up something else next turn to play, but just feels so bad to pass your turn at turn 7.
Yeah, definitely feels super tough. And CMac is just all on the offensive now. He's got a great hand full of removal, full of proactive minions, and is going to be able to push 7 here. I don't mind throwing out this Titanic Lackey either, just to buff up this 4/4 a little bit.
Do you see what must be done?
And Chaos Strike is an option to at least keep drawing a little bit. There's an Umberwing, but not going to
That's an upgrade.
be enough to play. It's not cheap enough to play this turn. So essentially, the turn stays the same. Is going to play as much as possible, but able to clear now thanks to the Chaos Strike.
And this way, Ron can technically say the Altruist has a chance to live, giving it Divine Shield. Of course, CMac does have a lot of options now to clear off this Altruist, but, from Ron's perspective, maybe if by some miracle the Altruist does stick, he can top deck a Skull next turn and get back into this game. But of course, we're going to see that is not the case. And CMac now, going for the Warglaives right into the Livewire Lance. Because even though this is a different weapon, he of course can still attack again and get a full clear of the board and still be at a pretty healthy life total. And Ron is just essentially top decking at this point.
And if that top deck is not a Skull, that is bad news, and it is not. It is a Mana Saber.
Now, this Mana Saber, CMac won't be able to interact with it at all this turn because it does have Stealth, but he has a lot of other options here. Skipper coming into the hand could have a pretty good Skipper Battle Rage turn now.
He's going to attack first to see what he gets as a Lackey. A Witchy.
Lackey could go on a Bloodsworn maybe. Not the worst for sure. Trying to work out exactly how CMac can maximize his draw from this Battle Rage. He may choose to just not do it this turn. Yeah, seems fine as well.
Not even going to attack with it, just keep it as hard to interact with as possible. But Kane is the pickup, and this is not nearly enough at this point to really make a huge dent in CMac's life total.
I will still find you.
Yep. Yeah, able to get past the taunt this turn maybe, but really just don't see this being enough with what we can see CMac has in hand. I do like this. CMac is going to trade into the 1/1 first and get 3 evasive worms on the board.
And then he will draw. Absolutely.
Your flaws are your strength.
Wow.
A pretty brutal turn. It all but ends this game.
Yeah. Oh, not even gonna draw 4. Just gonna choose to play Witchy Lackey instead.
And gets another minion out of the process.
And that's gonna be this game 4.
For now.
Wow.
So RonMexico falls in game 4, and that spares us from a 4th consecutive control. Well, there was never going to be a situation where we saw Control Warrior 4 times, but we don't have to worry because the Control Warrior, we got the maximum value out of it this game. We saw it 3 times, and it still won, and we're moving on to game 5 here. And this is everything we hoped this series would be, and more. So here we go, Rogue versus Demon Hunter for everything.
This ends now.
Watch your back.
Yeah, all coming down to this game 5. CMAC with the Spy Mistress, turn 1. I think one of the really
Greyheart
key
Sage.
cards in this matchup, being able to contest those 1-drops. But yeah, Greyheart also what you want to go along with it.
And now he can go ahead and, I wonder if playing the Worgen might have been better there, because you could play the Worgen, attack a 2/2, and then play the 3/1 next turn if you want to. But never mind, it's going to be beaming sidekicked, and that doesn't really change what, it would not have been better necessarily for CMAC to have played the Worgen Infiltrator in that case.
Yeah, I think that definitely merit to the Worgen, though, because, if your opponent only plays a Battle Fiend or Battle Mage without buffing it, it would have been good, but possibly a nod from CMAC to trying to play around those 2-drops that RonMexico could have pointed out, which do have 3 health. But Ron looking to be in a very strong position. CMAC is going to be able to go for this Greyheart, but he already has a pretty commanding board on turn 2.
Yeah, the Greyheart is not the fastest turn in the book there. You're playing a 3/3 out there to draw, which is great, but Demon Hunter wants you to do as little as possible on your turns, and picking up Backstab and Shadow Step are really not that impactful. I mean, Backstab will help, but I don't know if that is necessarily what CMAC was looking for here.
It's nice. It lets him kill off this 2/4 completely if he wants to. He could also choose to just backstab the 1/2, and then maybe hit his dagger into the 1/1 and keep this 3/1 stealthed for something down the line. I don't hate that as well, especially going into the turn 3, where, of course, we can see in Ron's hand he has the Frozen Shadow Reaver, but that or Satyr Overseer is a pretty likely turn 3 from Demon Hunter anyways.
I don't necessarily mind using the 3/1 regardless, since you have the Worgen Infiltrator that you can use if you do intend on Shadow Stepping the Greyheart Sage. But my question would have been, do you think that he tries to keep the Sage out there on the hopes that Ron just bypasses it entirely? He can then trade next turn and then pull it back and play it again, but that does not matter because he used the Shadow Step up front.
Interesting. I would say a little bit of a greedy play from CMAC. I might have chosen to try to play the Shadow Step with Evil Miscreant or maybe with a Lackey down the line instead, but I think this is going to end up working out for him.
Yeah,
getting 2 more draws. Yeah, and he has a nice trade with this 3/1 into the Shadow Reaver too, so...
I think that's where he's likely going to go with it. He could also eviscerate the 2/4 if he really wants to lean into taking as much stuff off the board as possible. And there's another Sage, so another option.
Yeah, I kind of think he might want to go for the Miscreant instead, just because at this point, CMAC has so much value in hand. He can probably win the late game against Ron. He just wants to make sure he doesn't get overrun by the aggression that Ron can have. Goes for the Eviscerate, chooses to take some more damage off the board, and now he can backstab and play a 1-drop.
Yeah, I like that move here. No, it's Generous Mummy! No. We've seen the worst and the second worst now this series.
Yep, probably not gonna see that one played this game. Could be wrong though.
I will tell you, a situation where it gets played is when there's almost no cards in your opponent's hand. Because at that point, you're saying, well, anything you draw, you're playing next turn anyway, so I don't care if it costs 1 less. But for now, it will probably just sit in hand unused.
Yeah, I mean, if your opponent's playing Skull, all their cards are 0 anyways, so not really a downside to play the Mummy out. But
well, then the cards cost -1, which just gives you money. That's how it works, right?
Imagine. Yeah. And CMAC now does have the option to either backstab or play Worgen to proc his Evil Miscreant, which I think he will want to go for. He could also try to get a questing going online. It looks like he is leaning towards that option. This doesn't get any lackeys in hand, but it does present a 4/4.
It puts the Infiltrator on board, so you've got a threat, you're clearing a bunch of stuff, and you're going to have the Sage active again next turn. And of interesting note, there has been no invokes so far. So Galakrond is purely just a draw 1 free card now, going into turn 6.
Yeah, definitely interesting. Ron here not a lot of options, and actually the only way that he can deal with
I
this
grow
questing is by running the
impatient.
Cane into it, which feels so bad. But I mean, can he afford to let the questing live in this position?
No, I think you cannot. I mean, he's not running silence, so if it doesn't die this turn, it never dies, and then you will die within the next turn or two. So I think the cane must be
Yeah.
used. The question now becomes: do you use face, or do you use your minion? He's going to use face instead. I think that's fine. Life total as a resource in this case, he's got plenty of it.
Yeah, keep a 1-2 on board. The 1-2, you know, could be relevant in this game, but now CmacComp's just gonna be able to go Greyheart into Miscreant if he wants to, which is very strong. Or get another questing down. Why
Questing
not?
into Greyheart, I think that's fine too. Maybe he draws a backstab to pump it a little further.
Yeah, I
He does
mean,
not.
seeing your opponent have to use Kane to kill their questing kind of shows CmacComp that Ron has no good removal options in hand. He continues to have no good removal options in hand with this pickup of Mana Saber.
Yeah,
There's
it's a
no way
real
to deal
tough
with the
time.
questing.
And I mean, I guess the one saving grace for Ron that he can't know right now is that CmacComp isn't exactly holding a ton of cheap cards. So the good news is that it's not going to be devastating next turn. However, it's still, just a turn or two away from getting out of control. And Ron is a ways away from being able to answer it at this point.
Yeah, I think Ron's only chance now is getting a skull and then going off on some sort of crazy altruist turn. Because I mean, CmacComp, Pharaoh Cat into Miscreant into multiple lackeys. He just has all the options in the world.
Kobold Lackey, Draconic. Does Draconic pull something playable? It does. Fairy Dragon if he wants it.
Fairy Dragon, why not, right? I mean, you're not gonna Kobold Lackey anything, so yeah, just get a 3-2 down.
Skyvateer is the other option, but at this point, as many stats as you can get on the board is completely fine because Ron has no way in the world to deal with this. Warglaves is not the answer, and this is just it.
Yep. Post nerf Warglaves. I mean, even if it was pre-nerf, it wouldn't matter. But I mean, is there even a way for him to win with Warglaves? I don't think so, because he has to take 7.
He's either taking the damage this turn by his own doing, or he's taking the damage next turn after CmacComp plays a bunch more cards and then runs a huge questing adventure into his face. So it's really it. And Altruist doesn't have anything to play outside of the Satyr, and even with the additional mana of this Mana Saber, that's just game.
Yeah, wow, Ron's gonna play it out, and I mean, he can attack with the Mana Saber here. He can maybe hope his opponent... I mean, is this technically lethal on board? I just want to double check.
True power.
I mean, you do the math better than I do, my friend.
Hero power. Yeah, and I mean, CmacComp has multiple playable cards in hand, so yeah, this is just gonna be game.
Shooty Lackey. Play out the generous mummy, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Make sure it gets played in a THL match. So as I mentioned two games ago, he lost 2 matches in a row with the Warrior, but the Warrior and the Rogue were definitely there in good matchups against that Demon Hunter, and as we saw, they rolled pretty easily in those last few games to give Taplast a commanding lead in this series now, 8-2.
Yeah, pretty insane. I think this really shows the weakness of Demon Hunter after the nerf. I mean, that was the deck that Ron couldn't get a win with. He also lost with his Rogue against the quest lock, but other than that, was up 2-1 in the series, and then just couldn't get it done with his Demon Hunter to close out the game. I think not great draws either game, but still, I think CmacComp pretty effectively targeted it, knowing that was a weakness of Ron's lineup in bringing that Control Warrior. Yeah, and then also, even though the Face Hunter got banned, I think the Face Hunter a better option than Highlander Hunter when you know your opponent is going to have a Tempo Demon Hunter that with the nerfs is going to be a little bit slower and a little bit more susceptible to the aggression of that deck.
And we are going to get CmacComp in here for an interview, as we usually do here after our matches conclude. So just waiting on him to accept the Discord friend request. There we go. Can you hear us, CMAC?
Yes. Greetings.
Greetings. Congratulations. Big win for you and Tapalast.
Thank you.
So we obviously want to talk about the Warrior, and I think you know that. So we're looking at your lineup there, and I'm sure you still felt comfortable with that Warrior going into Game 4 against the Demon Hunter. Of course, Rogue into the Demon Hunter is pretty good as well. Did you have an idea that he was going to bring Demon Hunter? Was that a consideration when you brought the Control Warrior, or was there something else that went into the decision making there?
So yeah, I guess I was basically this whole season, right? You bring a warrior and you figure, oh, it's gonna get banned, so you don't put much thought into it. And this week was no different. I sort of thought he was gonna ban the warrior, so I wasn't expecting to play it, but here I am.
Well, if anyone knows how to play Warrior, it's got to be you. Obviously, you've been known as the Warrior expert for a while, and Control Warrior in particular. So that was a long game with the Mage there. Any thoughts? Obviously, very unlucky to not have Zephyrs be active there in the last few turns. But what was kind of the thought process there as that game went on for you?
Yeah, I mean, I figured that if I could get those Fs active, I could probably maybe sneak out a win. I guess he still had box in hand, so
He did.
Yeah.
who knows what could have happened, but I don't know. Sometimes those games happen.
I don't know. At that point, I feel like box is more likely to go poorly for Ron, just because it's so likely it just draws him a couple cards, and that could easily have just lost him the game on the spot. Going back to sort of like the mid game of that, when you were just like armoring up to like 60 armor, and you were kind of running out of cards. Were you like, how much experience do you have really going into the late game with that deck with Elysiana? Were you still confident then that you could get it done? Because I think if the Zeph were active, you had a very high chance of winning that game.
Yeah, yeah, I guess it all comes down to the Elysiana RNG. And yeah, I guess like at least this meta, most games don't go to Elysiana, so I guess I don't have as much practice with it recently, but at least like several metas ago, like maybe a year ago, I have a lot of experience with Elysiana there, so I was more or less relying on that.
It is your profile pick in Discord, so it makes a lot of sense.
So now you guys are in pretty strong position here, 8-2. Any win for the remainder of the series, any of your teammates gets the job done. I know we have 2 matches tomorrow night. Typhoon is playing tomorrow night, and Desharmo is playing his match thereafter. When's the other match happening in this series?
The other is actually happening at the same time as my match.
Really?
Not that I was giving in my Discord. I think. Well, if we can talk about that later.
Is there a result in that?
I
guess
don't think they've actually played yet, so maybe they've had to reschedule or something. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay, because I would expect they'd be finished by now, and that your match would have been the longer one. But
Right.
yeah, maybe they ended up not playing at 8 p.m.
It does happen. That's all right. I'm just curious if the Sunday night stream is going to be if it's going to matter. You know, obviously, if it's Lawful Dog and Catman, I believe that's that third match there that will be played. I know, looking at the website, Lawful has submitted a ban. Catman has not. So obviously they've not played yet because no bans. So interesting to see that there's a little scheduling issue. I know Catman, I think he's West Coast, so he might be prone to playing a little later anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, as you said, great position. Looking forward to the rest of the matches.
Definitely. And before we head out, anything you want to say to your teammates, to your opponents? We'll give you the floor here. Ron's great opponent, nothing but respect.
also looking forward to playing his team in All Stars later. So that'll be great. Yeah, and I also shout out to my team. Every single one of them is awesome, and yeah.
Well, thank you for hopping in here on the interview, and again, congratulations on the win for both you and Tap Last. I am glad you brought up All Stars because that is something that we are very excited to be, bringing as a content team, and that's going to be actually happening. The Legacy All Stars happening on Monday. Just found that out today when we got everything scheduled up. So Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, tune in for the first ever iteration of the Legacy All-Star match with the 5 different event format. I will be stream mopping and bringing the action to you sort of live, 10-minute delay and all, with Brushy Tuna, Isocles. RonMexico will be helping alongside Heat Shock. So we will have an all-star casting team to pair up with the all-star players. So that should be exciting.
Yeah, definitely
that sounds cool.
Definitely looking forward to watching that as well. It's a nice way to kick off the off season.
Yep, just before the new set releases, just get one last hurrah in with the current cards, the current meta. There'll only be one effective match that we're used to Conquest style, but still should be fun. I expect to see a lot of different. Like, it's a different experience. I'm hoping a lot of people have a good time with it, and it's something that even if we don't do this exact format again, at least it lets us try something different down the line and keep trying new things. So hopefully we have a good time with it. But for now, we will be signing off tonight. Thank you, CMAC, again, for being here, for allowing us to stream your game. Markshire, thank you for joining me on the cast. A pleasure as always.
Always a pleasure.
So hey, thanks for casting, guys.
Yeah, anytime, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that being said, there is a potential Schoolstone match tomorrow afternoon. That is going to be a Hero Finals match instead of Pro. And we'll keep an eye out for the Catman and Lawful Dog result, if that does get played tonight. If not, definitely make sure to tune in tomorrow night for our finale of this series, as there will be 2 matches guaranteed to be played, if they, of course, are consequential to the standings. And that is The Last Champ versus Desharmo as the later match, Typhoon versus Brushy Tuna as the earlier match. So that's it for us tonight. Congratulations again to Tap Last, and good luck in the rest of your matches, everybody. And we will see you tomorrow night.